We don't really see conversion disorder as a legit disorder in Indonesia, or kesurupan massal as a mental disorder. Alright, secondly, we talked about deviance. The next one is distress. Yes, everybody can be distressed by work, by school, relationship, financial issues, family, and so on and so forth. But does that mean everyone has mental disorders? Not necessarily. In this context, distress means the distress that comes from the symptoms of the disorder. For example, in people with major depressive disorder, they need at least 5 out of the 9 possible symptoms to be diagnosed as major depressive disorder. How severe do the symptoms such as changes in sleep quality, interest, guilt, energy, concentration, appetite, or psychomotor activity affect this person? The parity can range from none to mild to moderate or even to severe. This is what we call as distress. In other words, a disorder may constitute extreme distress as one of the criteria. So if we have extreme distress, it is possible that we can call it a disorder. Thirdly, dysfunction or impairment. This means how much a disorder can affect their daily activities. For example, people with ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder usually do poorly in school or work. They have problem organizing tasks. They have pretty poor time management. They always have problem paying attention to detail. They have pretty poor motivation, self-restraint. They can be extremely forgetful, and they can be very unmotivated to do things. These are what we call as executive functioning. They have pretty poor executive functioning. As a result, they usually do poorly in school or at work, and they might get fired.
You're fired.
Because of the impairment from this disorder. This is what we call as the impairment. How much does it affect their social life, education, and for example, career, something like that? And finally, danger. There are 2 types of danger: DTS, or danger to self, and DTO, or danger to others. For example, suicide is the second leading cause of death in teenagers in the States. About 60% of the cause of the suicide in teenagers in the States is due to depression. This is what we call as DTS because they are putting themselves in danger. DTO, on the other hand, would be a symptom of people with, for example, ASPD or antisocial personality disorder. One of the symptoms of people with ASPD is repeated engagement in battery. They also repeatedly perform acts that are grounds for arrest. This is DTO, or dangerous to others. They're putting others in danger. In other words, either DTS or DTO can be one of the criteria of disorder. So if a behavior has this criteria, behavior can put themselves in danger or others, we can probably call it disorder. Alright, now we understand the 4 criteria of a disorder. Call it 4Ds, right? However, at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that these criteria had a caveat. What are some of the limitations? There are behaviors that fit all of these criteria: deviant, distressful, dysfunction, and dangerous, but would not be considered abnormal. For example, in Japan, there is this condition we call as hikikomori. Hikikomori, also known as acute social withdrawal, is total withdrawal from society and seeking extreme degrees of social isolation and confinement. It could span days, even weeks, even months, even years, not getting out of their room. And you know what? This happens to at least 500,000 of male adolescents or young adults in Japan. Some of their parents even rent a sister to go to their home, to socialize with them, to eat with them, and possibly to pull them out of their house so that they can go back to the society. This condition actually fits deviance because it actually deviates from the norm. It is more extreme than the norm. For example, there are times for me when I feel depressed or I feel sad. I want to be by myself. I need my quality time with myself, so I would not want to socialize with others. Probably a few hours, few days. But in this condition, it takes them months or even years isolating themselves, which is deviating from the norm, right? And the culture, because it's not everyone in the culture does that in Japan. It only happens in some people. And then some of them even exhibit this hoarding behaviors where the trash and all their stuff are put together in one room. They couldn't even walk, they couldn't even organize their stuff. It does cause dysfunction. They don't work. Most of them just spend their time by themselves in their house, playing games, reading comics, watching movies. They don't go to school, they don't work. So it causes dysfunction in their aspects of life. And dangerous to self? It is dangerous to themselves, because humans, we are social creatures. We need others to survive. By not socializing with others, we're actually putting ourselves in danger. So it definitely fits all the 4 criteria, but we don't actually call hikikomori as a disorder until now, at least in DSM-5. Instead, we call it eccentric behavior. So this can be ambiguous, and there can be a fine line between eccentric behavior and a disorder. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And this is also my Instagram. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.